Hey y'all, hey. So change of plans. Tonight we're going to do a story time while I do my makeup. Try a new makeup look. I want to try like an everyday makeup, no makeup look. So, and do a story time growing up as a preacher's daughter. So let's do it.
Black women are dope, man, and black women have so many strengths and talents, and it hurts us when we are trying to limit them in what they can and what they are able to do.
What you prefer, girl?
So, growing up as a preacher's daughter, actually the pastor's daughter. So first of all, last live I did there's something in my eye. Sorry. But the last live I did, I talked about a mask I had used, right? And it did a really, really good job. As you can see, like my skin looks really good. I don't know if y'all can tell, but the mask is called Glam Glow Supermud Clearing Treatment. And I had told you I hadn't been taking very good care of my skin lately. I kind of fell off, but I did one treatment. This is it. I don't know if it's backwards for you guys. Oh, maybe not. Can you see that? There it goes. Called Glam Glow. And this was awesome. Awesome, awesome. As you can see, my skin is, I did moisturize today. And today I also used this vitamin C clay mask by Gleamin. If you guys have seen this, it's called Gleamin. You see this advertised. And I didn't think it did that great of a job, but I kept using it probably like one to two times a week. And I even have skipped a week. And so I did it tonight, and I think it's a great compliment to the Glam Glow mask. I think they work well together, very well together. So worked pretty well for me. So as I was saying, let me see here. Mm, 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 mm. Looking for, okay. All right, there we go. So this is your girl Tasha Renee and the Darko Preference. And I'm going to do my makeup as I tell you about what it was like to be the pastor's daughter. I'm going to be using the Il Makiage. It's matte foundation because I am an oily girl. So those glowy and dewy type um, foundations usually end up looking like a greasy mess, so we want more of a matte foundation. I also use a matte primer by Rimmel. I'm going to just mute you for 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to holler at the kids for a second. But I'm going to use this mattifying primer. So I'll try to list everything after I finish with the live. I'll try to list everything in the description for you guys. But okay, so early on, growing up as a pastor's daughter, at first my dad was a deacon in the church, which was great. I was pretty young. So I think he became pastor when I was around 12ish, if I remember correctly. And by the way, I've already done my eyebrows because I have struggle eyebrows, so that's the whole thing. And where I had brain surgery in 2012, it kind of shifted like where my eyebrows are. So one's kind of a little lower than the other. So I have to make sure I get those kind of right. So they're never identical, as they say, sisters, not twins. Doubly true in my case. So, and so like I was saying, he was a deacon, and lived in Virginia, right outside the nation's capital, right outside of DC. Pretty big church. My dad worked for the government, worked at Quantico, and my mom worked for the Pentagon. And so he became pastor. And to be honest, not too many people know this, but we had a vote, so he was a vote-in pastor. We got a chance to vote, and me being my little young self, knew that I did not want my dad to be pastor because I was one of those little girls that just absolutely adored her father, and I wanted him home. And he was in college at the time, so he was gone a lot, taking night classes, and he would come home. So I was just happy to be around my dad all the time. And I knew with him being pastor, I just knew even as a kid, maybe I was around 10. I had to be around 10. I think between 8 and 10, he became pastor. But I knew it would take more time away from him being home with us. So I instinctively got that. And I voted against him, but it did no good to let you know what the universe has for you is for you, because apparently that was for him because he became pastor. And so that's where it all begins. I absolutely loved the church I grew up in because they were like really, really devoted to the youth at our church. Like I felt like our church like was just all about us, the kids. Everything was about us. We took wonderful summer vacations, like vacation after vacation Bible school. We went to King's Dominion every year. It was like the highlight of our summer, going to King's Dominion. If it wasn't that, well, we did that every year, but we also, as you got older, once you hit 12, you were eligible to go to what we call lot carry. I don't know if any of you that Southern Baptists know what lot carry is. It was a convention held at Shaw University in North Carolina, and it was the bee's knees. Loved it. I loved going. So pretty much everything was all right being the pastor's daughter, but I felt like things changed a lot once my dad became pastor. It really did. I felt like growing up socially, my mom kept us pretty sheltered. And as a parent now, I know that's just not a good thing. I know you try to protect your kids from everything, but to keep them away from other kids outside of school, it's just not a good idea. Because I always felt socially awkward, a little socially awkward growing up. And I always felt like that I didn't know how to act around other kids outside of like the school setting or like the church setting. So of course did make us a little socially awkward. Of course, as my little sister and little brother came along, my parents got a little bit more lenient with that. But their first two kids, me and my sister, my older sister, that was not the case. We did not have people over. We went to school and went to church and came home. That's what we did. But I guess to make up for that, we had the best birthday party. We had elaborate birthday parties and elaborate great vacations. We had the best vacations ever. Like Disney World year after year. We went to the beach quite often. We had great fun. And now this isn't a diss to my parents. They were awesome parents as far as that go. We were very well taken care of. They really gave the best that they could provide, they gave it. Okay. Which doesn't mean we didn't go to school in like super brand name clothes or anything like that. We did not. We got with a affordable clothing that was not too flashy or anything like that. We did not do that. But we were very well dressed and well maintained. I say that. So like I said, I'm going for a no makeup look here. I'm just trying to really smooth out any imperfections and discolorations. Trying to make sure I hit those. So anyway, because of that overprotectiveness, which, like I said, I'm not blaming my parents or blaming my mom for that. But we were overprotected, and I felt like, we missed out on a lot as far as the normal teenage life and those situations. So for me, being the pastor's daughter is kind of sucked. But it wasn't just that. It was also like the treatment of the people in the church. I felt like they stayed away from us kids like the plague. I mean, we could really see it, and they probably don't even know this, that we could tell. Kids can tell. It just seems like the things you try not to let them know, we kids tend to pick up on, and we definitely picked up on that. Like that rumor that the preacher's kids are the worst kids. It's like they believe that. And we were really innocent kids. We weren't into much. We didn't do that. We were happy to see our friends on Sunday, and things like that. But it always seemed like the other parents kind of kept their kids away from us, which sucks because I would have loved to have close friends during that time. I would have loved to, but we didn't. And I wish we had. So that sucked for me. It was pretty lonely as far as I go. I did have a friend that lived up the street. Shout out to Carla. She was a really good friend. Used to call us like the Cosbys. A lot of people thought our lives was something that it wasn't. To me, we were pretty normal. You know, people thought we weren't. We lived like really outside of low income housing. It was like up the street from where we lived. And of course, we were dying to go visit over there. My mom wouldn't let us step foot over there. I used to think we knew how normal those kids were. They were normal. They were just like us. And but like I said, I adored my parents. I thought my mom was the most beautiful woman in our church. I guess every girl thought her mom was, so true to form. I thought my mom was too as well. And my dad was Superman. Until I managed to get pregnant at the age of 16. I got pregnant at 16, and I remember being really disappointed in my dad because him being the pastor, he had to do what was called sit me down. And the sitting down of a person is when you've committed a sin or some type of shame, apparently, and they prevent you from participating in the regular ongoings of the church. Like I could no longer participate in choir or for Sunday school, like when it was your particular age group's class turn to give a synopsis on Sunday morning, they took turns by age level. And whenever it was your, like my group, the teenage group's turn to give synopsis in front of the church, I couldn't participate. I couldn't go up and participate with the class because I was pregnant. And I found this to be very hypocritical. And it was very like, I felt like an outsider. It was very, 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 I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with that makeup. It was just very hurtful for me. Like you always feel like your parents will forgive you and love you, no matter what you do. And at that time, I just didn't feel very loved or forgiven or appreciated. I felt very outcast. That's the word, outcast. I felt like an outcast. Very, very much so. Very lonely. There were times, though, even though it's here now and I'm keeping the baby, so let's go on and accept it, is how I felt. And I felt it was very hypocritical. Hypocritical. Oh, thank you, Double T. Yeah, I felt it was very hypocritical of my dad to sit me down. I felt like in a place where you've taught me all my life to love and forgive and see beyond a person's outside. Like I'd see my parents pick up people on the side of the road, families that seem to be in trouble and take them right in our home and let them. My mom gave them our clothes to wear and gave this woman her dress, like all these acts of kindness. And I felt as a teenager being pregnant that this wasn't extended to me. If you know what I mean? Like the same courtesy and kindness wasn't being extended to me. I was being taught a harsh lesson as if having a baby to begin with wasn't harsh enough. And so I really focused on my baby, that baby that was coming. I was in love with that baby before it even got here. I was literally obsessed. Every magazine I could find and read through every stage of my pregnancy, I read through it. I really read through it. I knew exactly how big my baby was, what it was doing, how it had developed. I had nothing else besides school. And so also, I just felt like a big embarrassment to my family, is the bottom line. I felt like a very big embarrassment. And so on top of that, we moved. This is also my senior year in high school. So we moved the summer before my senior year. I'm big and pregnant. I was due in September. So I'm due in September. School starts in September. That summer we move. We move further south and where it's less developed. People are building houses out there. So we moved from like right on the outskirts of the city to basically suburbs. We moved dead to the suburbs. So I went from a primarily Black high school to a school where there were like a handful of Blacks there, right? On top of that, I'm coming from the outskirts of the city and I'm huge and pregnant. I did not want to start school, right? Very first week of school, total culture shock. White environment, white, all my teachers were white, all the students are white except for a few. And let's see, what am I looking for? So, culture shock. On top of that, what happens next? The very first week of school, that Friday, fifth period, it's in my anatomy and physiology class, which is the good part, I guess. I'm not feeling very well. I'm feeling kind of crampy. And of course, your first week at a very new high school, you're already big and pregnant, feeling like a cow. Nothing teenagerish and sexy about it. Just felt like a big old cow, waddling, trying to find my classes. Everybody's staring at me like I'm diseased or something because they live in the suburbs. They just don't see pregnant teenagers. Not in 1993. It wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't as common. Not that it didn't happen, but definitely not so much in the suburbs. And so I go to the bathroom and my whole mucus plug plops out. Sorry for anybody who's weak stomach, but that's what happens to this 16-year-old girl who is just, I am mortified, totally mortified at this point. So I approached my biology teacher, who was absolutely awesome. You can tell she didn't grow up in the country or whatever. She was totally, totally awesome. But she was just as excited as I was. She was excited to have her like a pregnant teenager in her class. So she was all welcoming, very kind lady. But what she did embarrassed the crap out of me. She announces to the whole class, my student is in labor. She's in labor in my fifth period class. Oh my God. You sit right there. I'm going to make the calls. And she was so excited, but I was totally mortified. I was so embarrassed. The only good thing is I could think about was that, okay, So I'm going into labor and I'm going to have this baby, which means I'm going to be out of school. Right. You got a 93 baby too? Awesome. Yes, she embarrassed me so bad. And I know she didn't mean to, but man, was I embarrassed. And she so I got to go in her office and call home. And of course, I guess my parents called themselves still teaching me a lesson because I didn't got pregnant. It's like, again, as if being pregnant wasn't, less than enough. But they did. Oh, I'm missing bronzer. So anyway, I get to call my mom. So I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I need you to come pick me up. She's like, pick you up for what? I'm like, I lost my mucus plug. I'm going into labor. She said, I'm going to bring you a pair of underwear and a pad. You'll be fine. So she's going to make me stay in a brand new school the first week of school, and I'm going into labor. And she tells me I'll be just fine, that I'm going to finish the day. Mind you, it's fifth period, which means we only have 2 more classes left. We had 7 period days, 2 more classes left. I could have went home, but you're going to make me stay and finish the day and then ride the school bus home. I was furious. Oh, there's one thing I want to mention. Let me tell you, this is the Beasley. This is a lip primer. I never knew they even made lip primer. It's by Anastasia Beverly Hills. But if you have any type of lip issue, like if you have dry lips or any type of lip issue, this is the bomb. It's basically invisible, but it's so smoothing, and it's not greasy or oily or anything, but it primes your lips. So whatever you put on your lips stays in place. Awesome. And if you guys missed it, I was telling you about the mask that I used. I'm going to mention it again. It is called it says Hollywood, California, GLAMGLOW Supermud Clearing Treatment. I hadn't been taking care of my skin lately. This is awesome. This is awesome. I used one treatment and I didn't even have to use a moisturizer, but I didn't use it today. Today, I just used the Gleamin vitamin C mask, and then I moisturized. I use my Urban Hydration Black Owns. Where is it? Can never find stuff. You need it, but y'all are familiar. If you watch my makeup stuff or my skincare, Urban Hydration, it's really awesome. But anyway, back to my story. So my mom comes up to the school. Of course, when she gets there, I'm thinking, when she get here, I'm gonna put it on her. She's gonna take me home. I'm gonna put it on thick. She's gonna take me home. She gets here calling herself, bringing me a pad and some some underwear. Like, that was awful. You made me change in school. Awful, awful, awful. So she did. She made me change in school, and she did not take me home. I finished the rest of the day in school. I was horrified. I couldn't believe she made me do that. I'm like, we're just going all the way in on learning this lesson, as if the night staying up with the newborn baby and all that isn't enough, So I just felt awful. I felt like the world rejected me and God was judging me, and I felt like everything that they were doing just went against everything they were preaching on Sundays. I really did. I just felt like that just wasn't it. Like, y'all are doing this all wrong. And like, it's part of the reason, like, I kind of, like, I still believe in God, but I think it's more in the universe. And I view the Bible as a way to, like, live life. It's like a manual to help you get through, more so than religion. So I guess I'm more spiritual now. That's the way I like to view it. Just spiritual versus religious. Because God knows he made us imperfect, right? He knows we're not perfect. So I don't think the image or perception or that living to perfection is what he expects. I think it says he wants us to be Christ-like. And Christ, to me, had a lot of compassion when you read the Bible. He was a compassionate human, compassionate person. Sorry, my nose was kind of running. But yeah, that's what I felt. That he was just compassionate and loving, not what they were trying to make him out to be. And I felt like that was just wrong, what they were doing to me. Same through the religion out years ago. Yeah. And I hate to say that I don't want to embarrass my parents or anything, but it's really how I feel. Like, y'all did that wrong. I don't think that's what God intended. I think it's a lot of misinterpretation of the Bible going on. Shaming people into religion, I just don't think that's the way to go. Just don't think so, in my opinion. And I love singing in the choir, and you took that from me after I'm going through all this. That would have gave me some peace. And yeah, it kind of you took that from me, and I felt like I was being judged more harsher than the adults. Like just because we don't know their sins, we know they sin because they're human. So why to put mine on display and make a mockery of me? It brought more attention having me sit down when I used to participate in the events in church. Brought more attention to it than if you had just done nothing. Just let me participate. Let me get closer to God, you know? I don't know. I really resented that. And that's when my dad was no longer Superman. It felt like my dad could handle anything, and I felt like he would defend me, always defend me and protect me, and I didn't feel defended or protected at that time. Love my dad to death, don't get me wrong, but at that moment, things change. I guess there comes a point in every kid's life where their parents aren't any, the superheroes they believe them to be anymore. That's pretty much what happened to me. So moving on, I had my baby, my gorgeous baby, and my baby made me feel like, you know, screw the world. I'll do anything for this kid. Like, that's how I felt. Like, nothing mattered anymore but that baby. I was totally smitten. When he came out and I saw his face, like, nothing ever mattered. Any boy I ever had a crush on or anything, gone. Totally gone. I had absolutely no. Only thing that came to my mind was that I didn't want to share. That's really how I felt. Like I didn't want to share this baby. So men aren't wrong. The ones that say women get selfish with the kid, I get it because that's really how I felt. It's not like my parents was gonna let some dude come around anyway. Hey, hey, learning to how you doing? So having a story time. I do this makeup, and so also I noticed a change in the people at the church. Like they didn't really want their daughters hanging with me or real bougie, real status. But what kind of brought this back to mind was watching Our Kind of People. You know, kind of being in Leah's position, right? But after having a baby or getting pregnant, I felt like Angela, being an outskirt. Yeah. And I felt like the Baptist church was just horrible to me. That was more toxic and more harmful than anything they were trying to teach. If we are teaching a loving environment and teaching us to be good people, y'all killed that for me. One, my own father sat me down, which was totally embarrassing and disappointing. Then to see the members of the church treat me differently, treat me differently in a way. It was just very, very toxic. And like you could see the whispers and the stares and the point, it was just awful, awful for me. And I think it defeat whatever purpose they had for that, it did not go over well. If I was the type that was boy crazy and in love with some boy, I could see why being part of the church, you run off with anything's better than what you're going through at that time. When you feel like the people you love the most have turned on you, they totally abandoned you because you made a mistake. That's how that felt. And even though I love my parents, and I understand now as an adult, I understand what they were trying to do. But I felt like they were more loyal to this religion than to me, the child that they, raised, loved, and claimed to love. That's really how I felt. And that was a shame. And so, like, nobody had any real use for me unless I was a really smart kid, like academically. So when it came to like the oratorical contest and the spelling bees, after I had my child, they were all for it. Tasha automatically, Tasha, we want her to do it. Or Yeah, teacher's gonna, yeah, you're gonna go win the spelling bee. I'm gonna go win it. You're gonna go win the oratorical contest. I was told I was gonna go win it, and I did. I tried to, but it's so hard talking to my parents. I literally just got my parents in the last, but almost 3 years now, to tell me my adopted mother's name. Mind you, I just turned 45 last week. 45, and I just got 3 years ago got my birth mother's actual name and found my birth mother. I went all this time not knowing because they didn't want to tell me. They didn't want to tell me. So any other topics is like, and I would have loved to, but I waited too long to have the conversation with them because my dad just had a stroke just under a year ago. He's still recovering from that. So trying to have that conversation is just, it's a moot point at this point. He literally just retired as pastor. They just had his retirement party 3 weeks ago. So I waited too long. So I just have to, let it go. Just let it go at this point. I wish I had addressed it a long time ago. Anytime I ask my mom about anything, she's like, ask your father, ask your father. And then when you go ask him, it's like, don't upset your mother. Don't upset you. I have to give you one thing. They marriage is tight now. They have each other's back, even when it comes to us. Now, they stand together against us. I'm telling you. Their marriage is definitely a partnership. Definitely that. So, ain't getting nowhere there. If you think you're going to go to one and get around, the only thing we got over on my dad, as far as my mom was concerned, was whoopings. He just didn't want to do it. My dad was not whooping us. I guess it didn't matter who threatened what, because he was not putting his hands on his daughters. Now, he got my brother, but he did not whip us, honey. He just couldn't bring himself to do it. Now, other than that pregnancy thing, up until then, he was a great father, like very involved. There was never a time when, like, how people get tired of kids talking too much and asking questions. My dad was the opposite. Ask all the questions you want. Talk his head off. Kids talking his head off, he loves it. So I had a great dad. But when it came to me getting pregnant, like, I remember even telling him when I got pregnant that because someone in the church had told, because I confided in a girl at church, and she told. So by the time I got home that day, after telling her, my mom and dad confronted me at the kitchen table and asked me, and I remember just telling him yes, that it was true. I didn't want to lie, and that's the first time I saw my dad cry. One tear came down his face, and I remember just feeling like I had totally disappointed him. They didn't yell, scream, or get upset. My mother didn't speak to me for like 2 weeks. She was just so devastated, you know. But when she did, after the 2 weeks and she came around, like, she was very apologetic. Like, she came with a stack of baby clothes and like my first baby gifts. She had packaged in this beautiful bag and baby bag, and she came like with the gift, and she apologized. She was very apologetic how she acted. I found out with that pregnancy was when I found out I was adopted, because they wanted me to give the baby up for adoption, and I refused. They didn't force it, so they did suggest it, that it be adopted by a family member, and I refused. I wanted to raise my baby. Then finding out that I was adopted, definitely not. Let me read some of these comments. Let's see. Yeah, sometimes the church people are the worst. They say God is love, but act differently. God is love, but act differently when you make a mistake. Yeah. And I think that needs to be something spoke about in church. They need to speak about how they do that. And that's why they push a lot of the LGBTQ community out of the church. I just don't think that's right. How can you preach acceptance and love and banish people for any sin? If all sins are the same, how can you pick and choose which of those sins can reside or worship in your church? What was the relationship like with your parents and then their first grandchild? Oh my goodness. Listen, when I first had my first child, you would have thought that baby belonged to my mother. She was the doting grandmother. Like, when I went to church, she would be like, give me that baby. Give me that baby. Like when church was ending, you know, at the end of church, everybody gets up and they go to shake hands and, you know, greet everybody and all of that. She would take the baby and be just parading him around, and everybody would come see the baby, like, oh, he's so beautiful. And I should be just sitting there. So my dad did have to step in and was like, listen, give her her baby. Give that girl her baby. And like had to put it into my mom doing that. He did do that. But adored him. They adored him. Hey, Iridescent. I was 16 when I had my first child. 16. Yeah, and I was just very disappointed in my church family. Like all those people that watched me grow up and were so proud of me whenever I did something, you know, like won an award or did something in school. They really made me feel like I was just the disappointment of the century. Right after that, there was another girl that ended up being pregnant. And so it seemed to be becoming more common at that time, you know. Um, Teenage pregnancy was becoming more common just in society, period, around that time. And so she got sat down as well. And so I just kind of felt a little different after that. I didn't feel so shunned, but I still felt it was very wrong. Very, very wrong of them to do that. And so, like that, like I said, that was my senior year. So I went off to college. At that time, I was very conflicted about going off to college. I didn't want to leave home because I knew I would have to leave my baby behind. And I didn't want to do that, but my parents made me. And we had just moved, like I told you, the summer before. We had moved from the city where there was like transportation. We had the subway system and we had buses that ran like every 15 minutes. No, the father of my son did not go to the church. No, no, no. And so they yeah, they made me go off to college. So I was very upset. Very, very upset by that. And so I did what they said. I went against my wishes, against my judgment, rather. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave my baby, and I shouldn't have, because that was like literally all I could think about was him. And it was crazy because the day we drove and I got all this stuff for my dorm room, and it was like bittersweet. It was supposed to be an exciting time, but it wasn't because I had to leave my baby behind. And I remember the day we went, my baby had gotten very, very sick. He was so sick. And he was such a good baby. He was such a good baby that my mom told me, she was like, oh, you won't learn with this one. This baby was like too good. Like he was just one of those well-adjusted babies that come out just like knowing, like it's time to walk. So, okay, I'll walk. Time to get rid of the pacifier. Okay, I'll let it go. You want me to drink out this cuppy instead of a bottle? Okay, he was like that baby, like so easy. Like finding a babysitter for anything was just like not a problem. It was like everybody wanted to babysit him. Everybody wanted to keep him because he was so good. He was just so good. He never cried unless we were doing his hair because he had a ton of hair. I mean, a ton of hair. He was born with an afro, huge curly afro, and it like kept growing. It didn't thin anywhere. He didn't have any bald spots. Like it just kept growing to the point where he was like 3 months old, and we were literally had to put him between your knees and do something with it so it wouldn't be matted. It was that much hair. We had to comb it and put it in rubber bands, and he just hated it. But he just had so much hair, but he was too young to have it cut, so it grew like weeds. Oh God, he was adorable. And he had these big old eyes. Oh, and these long, thick, curly lashes. His eyes were everything. Like they were so big because he was so little. He would look at you, it would just like melt your heart. Like he was adorable, adorable. He was a old soul too. I mean, he was a grown man, and so like he's almost 30 now, and I used to worry even at 16, like, why don't you go out with your friends? Go out and do something, because he was so responsible. Like, I didn't have to buy anything necessarily for him ever since, like, once he turned 16 and found out that he can make his own money, that's what he did. You don't have to buy my deodorant, Mom. I got it. I got it, Mom. Like, he's that kid. Like, even now, people that know him now can tell you the type of man he is. Such a responsible, like, well-rounded and highly intelligent, super intelligent, and just very kind. But he's all man, very kind, and what a man should be. I have to pat myself on the back. He just is. Like, how he stays on his little brothers, and he's just a good man. Like, I'm very proud of him. Very, very proud of the man he's become. Very protective of his mama. Very, very protective. But he's a good man. But he was such a good baby. My mom told me, she was right. I had another baby. Had another baby by the time I was 18. And I had a girl. Then I had a girl. Gorgeous. Absolutely. I should show you pictures. You'd probably kill me. I'll show you younger pictures. That's funny. For my 45th birthday, my mom sent me all these pictures. All these pictures. That's so funny. I'm going to show you the baby one, so I won't embarrass him. See this newborn pic. This is his newborn picture. He had a head full of hair. There's tons of it. I'm telling you, it didn't, not a lick of hair lost, not a patch, nothing. None of my kids ever had you know how they get the baby bald spots? No. Part of that reason is because I also had siblings, okay? And then I had my daughter 2 years later. That's so funny how much they look alike. And this is my daughter. Head full of hair. All of them. Every last one of them. Head full of hair. And even my middle son. Y'all will meet him because he's going to do some shows with me. So y'all will meet the middle boy. He still has all his hair. It's down his back. So, yeah. So I had another baby at 18, but I got pregnant away at college. And had a girl. So I got to come home then and be with my baby. But that day when they brought me to college is what I was telling you. Looks like the same baby, I know. They look exactly like it gets even funnier because the third boy, we showed him a picture of the oldest boy at like 3 years old, and we asked him when he was younger who it was. He said it was himself. He thought it was his own self, and it was the oldest one. That's how much my kids look alike. It's crazy. The baby is the one that looks like is the one chocolate one, the one that's my color, my firecracker. He's the one that looks like me. But anyway, he got really sick the day that they were dropping me off at school. And I was just so torn. I did not want to leave him. My mom was like, he'll be fine. You know, you just tripping. He'll be fine. You got to do what you got to do and this and that. Oh, I was so torn. He got so sick. He's such a good baby. He doesn't complain. He was so sick. I mean, he was burning up with fever. Then he started the diarrhea. It was just awful. Awful, awful, awful. Awful. And I did not want to leave him, but I did. And of course, the guilt of leaving him, I just didn't do well that first year of college. I did not. I did not do well because I needed to be with my son. I knew it. I needed to be with my son, with my baby. And it was like even coming home for the weekend, sometimes I had to study. And I remember he was such an intelligent child, like just telling him, I'm going to come. And if I didn't, like the next time I saw him, he would be like, you lied. You lied to me. He would be like that. And I remember I would never give him any definites anymore because I never wanted him to think his mom was a liar. So I always made sure I would tell him I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to try to do this. This is the plan. But if I don't, It's because I couldn't make it, or make sure I was very clear with my kids, and that taught me that lesson right there. Dave also told me I had lied to him. Girl, broke my heart. Broke my heart. I said, never again will I tell him something and not follow through. And I did not. I hold that with any of my children. Let's see here. Hey, hippie, Miss Laws. Hey, learning. Double T, Miss Laws. Yes. So, yeah, the church was awful. And that's part of and I guess that is biased, right? You could call that bias, but it was a very real experience. And considering my father was the pastor, I feel like it's a very honest, you know, perception. I have reasons to challenge religion and the way they present it. And after religion was used so horribly against Black people in that way, as far as slavery, like, how could y'all do this? How could you do this? Oh, I hate liquid eyeliner, but okay. Like, how could y'all just so blindly, jump into this religion that was taught by your oppressors, and believe the same interpretations? Because when I read the Bible, without it being preached to me, and you just use your own interpretation as you read it, those stories that we were told, it just doesn't match up. I don't remember those when I read it, I don't hear the interpretation that y'all used to give us growing up. I just don't hear that. It's not what I read. When you read it yourself, so I encourage everyone, to read the Bible yourself. Read it yourself for your own understanding and see if it rings the same, if those stories match up. Because it didn't for me. It was just another way to oppress us. And that's very clear. So, like I said, read it for yourself. Very disappointing to be rejected by the people that are supposed to love you, that you're supposed to find safety and comfort in, like the church. They're supposed to be there for the worst times in your life, right? And they weren't. They absolutely weren't. They weren't. They weren't there for me. I felt like they failed me. And they left me alone. Like, nobody came to talk to me. Like, they have prayer groups and counseling for people in the church, but I was left totally unsupported. Totally unsupported. Nobody came and checked on me. Yeah, they all came to the baby shower and showed up like they're supposed to, but I didn't feel it was genuine. I was the pastor's daughter, so it was kind of like you had to show up, or it felt fake. Every interaction after that just felt fake. Because it wasn't like you brought your daughters over that used to come over my house to come play with me or come see me, or because y'all called yourselves, didn't want to glorify having a baby, right? But screw the mother. Let her just wallow in her shame, because that's what I felt. I felt ashamed. And I felt like the church has failed. I mean, and more so than myself, I feel like the church has failed society anyway. Is when you look at what's going on in the world, and I feel like the church could really step up and lead the community. They don't. They're silent. Every opportunity, unless it's an opportunity to be seen on TV with the right people, but they don't really do anything. I don't feel like they do anything worth talking about. This is a little They do not do anything. Not for the community. They do to justify bad behavior, or to boost their own ego. To me, to set themselves above you. And then they collect all that money on Sundays, and I never see it. This was my question. Was like, y'all have this community, and where's the outreach? Why don't y'all go into the places where people don't know about God or don't have access to the church? And they could benefit from a church body. Like when their electric bill gets cut off, y'all have the funds to help people keep their lights on or get their rent. But y'all keep all your money and all your resources confined, even the message of God, y'all keep it all confined to this group of people that already have the message, which defeats the purpose. Because isn't the whole point is missionary? Isn't that the whole point of the church, to be missionaries to the world? Take the message out to the world, be of service to the world. But I just saw people serving themselves. I think it's just backwards. It's just another little clique or club or group of people that stick to themselves and do for themselves. They use that shame to control folks. Yes, they do. Even controlling them into giving money. Tired how it's preached. You're supposed to give 10%. It does say you're supposed to give 10%, but it says your time or your talent. Yes, all of them are sinners. We're all sinners. Yes, we're all sinners. So why is my sin so much bigger than yours that it needs to be put on display? I felt like Cersei in Game of Thrones being marched through the streets. You know, what was they called? I forgot what shame. That's exactly what they called her. But they said to her, shame, shame, walk through there. You're bare naked. You know what I'm saying? Looking your worst because you're big and pregnant, and they're throwing rotten vegetables at you, and shame, as if none of them have sinned even that day, right? That's how I felt. And no, this is not a dig on my parents. Let me say that. But it's a dig on the church in general, on the Southern Baptist Church in general. Y'all got to do better. Y'all got to do better by people and set better examples. If y'all was more concerned about showing an example of not getting pregnant than showing the example of love and compassion. Y'all worked real hard at that. And the very people in the church that were your friends and that we had over for dinners and stuff like that, they shamed me in other ways with their looks that my parents didn't see when their backs were turned, or they're always their frowns and different things. I saw that. There was this one older lady that my mom had taken a liking to that would come over. My mom would go get her and bring her over to the church every now and then. And she was old. You hear me? Old. And her name, I'm going to say her name because she was the kindest woman to me. She was the most kindest person. Like during that time, and they said that it was an old woman. They used to tell me how beautiful I was. I used to think she said it just because being nice. But I guess now looking back, I think she saw what I was going through. And she was just a good person. She was trying to counteract all the damage that everyone else was doing. And her name was Miss Mabel Smith. I was so sad when I heard she passed away. But I mean, even back then, she had to be in her 80s, but she was still sharp in the mind. And I remember she used to sit in church, and people kind of didn't pay her no mind because she was so old. They sit her there, and they come collect her when church was over. It's like they come collect her when church was over and stuff. But her mind was there because I remember being in church, and me and my sister, my older sister, would get in trouble because we find something funny, and we just, you know how you get the giggles and just can't stop laughing. Well, that would happen in church. And then being the pastor's kids, it was just like even worse. It was like we couldn't even be regular kids. We got judged extra hard for doing just some kid shit. Like something was funny and you get the giggles. Another kid's present, just tell them walk out and get some water or something, or here's a man, calm, you know. We got the super stare down and like, oh, how dare you? Look at these horrible children. Like that was the sentiment. But she was really nice to me, Miss Maybell. And I remember we would catch the giggles, and sometimes we would look back, and Miss Maybell would be bent over, and she'd be cracking up too because she caught on to what we saw, and she would be laughing too. So I knew I wasn't crazy. Oh man, Miss Mabel Smith, man, she was so funny, and it was so funny that she would. It was even funnier because she would catch it, and when she would be giggling, we would be giggling even harder. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab this wig and then fix it. I'm gonna just hold on 1 second. I'm gonna still talk to you though. So I thank God for Miss Mabel all the time, how kind she was and how she instilled confidence in me. That she used to tell me, "You're the prettiest girl," and she was a dark skinned woman too. And of course, as being dark skinned, it just comes with some insecurities growing up. It just does. It just does. And she used to tell me, "You're the prettiest girl in here. You know the prettiest. You know you're the prettiest." And she used to tell me lies. She used to tell me little lies like, "You your mama's favorite." She probably told, I don't know if she told any other kids that, but I felt like she was my person. I felt like I was the only kid that she talked to and that she liked. But who knows? She could have been telling all the kids that. But I felt like she was my person. And I thank God for her. And I know she's resting in peace because she was truly a godly woman. Because I feel like to have the joy of God in you, you can laugh and smile and find joy in things. And she was that type of person. As old as she was, she could laugh with us kids. And to me, she would look at the rest of the adults like they were silly, like they worrying over the wrong thing, just silly. And she usually agreed with us. And I remember she got to babysit us a couple times, and she was just so sweet. She was like the best babysitter. She wasn't trying to be mean to you. She was just so kind. But she was really like grandmother-ish, like grandmotherly. Like she didn't take no mess, but we never gave her no reason to like get on our butts or anything because we really, really liked her. We really, really liked that woman. We just genuinely liked her because she was kind. And we weren't bad kids anyway. They just treat preachers' kids like they the devil. It is. It was like God sent her to reassure me that everything was going to be all right. You know, like everything's going to be all right. You're still beautiful. And she used to call me superstar. She used to tell me I was a superstar. Like I could sing really good. She thought I could sing really well, and I was so pretty. And she used to really like make me feel like that with the little least of words. Like not even with saying a whole bunch of words. It was like the least little bit she could convince me of that and make my day. And she did. She used to really make me feel good. So because of her, you know, I wish I could like repay that now or let her know how much she made a difference because I didn't even know then how much it made a difference that she did that. So be easy on if you go to church or be easy on your pastor's kids now or any other preacher's kids. Be easy on them because it's rough sometimes. And this is only like one little story I could kind of tell you of the trajectory of me getting pregnant and that experience, how I was treated. But it was awful. And so it really deterred me from church. I probably haven't been set in a church for a long time. I pray. I do pray and believe in God and have faith in all that. But my viewpoint of religion is very different. I just don't believe God is who those people in church. I don't believe that would be his disciples. Those would be his people that he walked through the lands with. I don't believe y'all are. I think you are the people that he would shame, that he will yell, "Shame on you for thinking you're better than. Shame on you for mistreating the least of you. Who's struggling the most." That's what I think you'd be doing. That's how I feel about it. All right, so here's my no makeup look. What y'all think? Thank you. I try not to, just a little light something. There we go. So yeah, that's my story. My story with the Baptist church. And the Baptist church, they could do a lot of good, but they don't come out their little, and they want to talk about cults. They don't break away from their little cult. They keep everything for themselves. The scholarships only go to the kids, basically who have been to 7 out of 8 choir practices. As long as you participated 7 out of 8 rehearsals in the school year, or like the only kids that could go to the summer King's Dominion trip had to be signed up for the choir. You had to participate in the choir, and all these requirements. When y'all could buy just tickets for the first come first serve and buy tickets for the whole neighborhood. So I remember at one time it was like that. I remember they used to send us from our church down the street into the low income neighborhood and like go tell the kids get their parents and they could come. They could come go to King's Dominion, but we used to have 3 and 4 big charter buses, and we used to fill them up with parents and kids who wanted to go just until the tickets ran out. I remember when it used to be like that, but not anymore. Not anymore. Because we went from the old edifice to a new edifice. We had an old building that was like 127 years old. It was a historical site. It was such a historical site that they couldn't tear it down. They actually had to build a new church around it because it became a historical, whatever you call it, when you can't destroy like historical property or whatever. So they had to literally built a $3 million church under the direction of my dad around the old church. It was awesome. It was a beautiful church. And I remember, like, once that church was built, once that $3 million edifice got in there, honey, things changed. Things changed. Like, before it was like any kid in the neighborhood could go on our trips or sign up for things, but not even after that. You had to be a member. If you wanted help with your bills and things like that, you had to be a member for so long. It was just like all this criteria, which made it fake to me. It made me look at me being pregnant, made me look at that church in general differently. You're no different than these elitist clubs that serve only themselves. They don't serve the neighborhood. Y'all write a check, but when do y'all get y'all boots dirty? Go out into the neighborhood and really help people see what they need, not just send a check or have like they'll do stuff like the back to school book bag things, but best believe the kids in the church got them things first. It didn't go to the historical landmark. Yes. Thank you. Thanks. But yeah. I just felt like it should be the low income. The people really in need should get those book bags and supplies first because y'all don't need it. Remember, y'all paying y'all 10% every month. Y'all are not in need. It should go to the people in need. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And I grew up a part of it, so I just don't get it. It doesn't work for me, so I don't participate. I don't participate in that church scene. I'm not the type that shows up on Easter and Christmas. I don't do it. Or New Year's. I enjoy it with my family. Me and my kids get in here. We talk about the Bible, to discuss God and these things. But as far as that church atmosphere, I just don't like the hypocrisy of it all. And I see how harmful it is. It was very harmful for me. I don't know where my glasses are, so. But yeah, it was very harmful for me. And so I opt out. I wouldn't mind even like little study groups and things like that. I wouldn't mind that, or like Bible studies, but I'd have to vet who's teaching it because I feel like the Bible has been taught wrong for many, many years. Because when I read it, it's a lot of it's not what I'm reading was what you're teaching. Like God literally cohorted with a prostitute. What Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. Was it Mary Magdalene was a prostitute? Was one of his closest friends. So how do y'all shun anyone? He protected a prostitute from stoning. His exact words was, those of you without sin cast the first stone. And y'all do everything but that. Y'all do not adhere to the teachings of Jesus or the Christ likeness that y'all preach. So I'm just not with it. Love my parents, but I'm not with it. Say grace, pray before meals, all that, but no. Church, no, I can't sit through the hypocrisy. The fake pastor, first lady, if I was the pastor, I wouldn't even want to be called that. Call me, if anything, call me sister. I'm your sister. Or how can I help you? And you should be a servant to the people around you. In a church setting, you should all be servants looking to serve. That's what I say. I think so too. It's been rewritten. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. It's been rewritten. And they need to do better. They either really go by the examples in that book. They are not doing it. Y'all have just created an elitist society. It's just a bunch of blacks that think they're better than than other blacks. That's how I see it. And you're not. Definitely not. And maybe you didn't intend it like that, but that's the way it is. And y'all have the power to fix it. You can fix it. One sermon can fix it. It reminds me of that story about that preacher. It was this church. They're supposed to get a new preacher in a couple weeks. And they didn't know when they didn't know when the new pastor was coming, but they were preparing for him to come. And so one Sunday there was this old homeless man that came in. And when he came in, nobody would speak to him or anything. And then the ushers, when he went to sit towards the front of the church, the ushers came and got him and sat him towards the back. And they were talking about like, oh, look at this man. He needs to, let's get him out the way. Let's get him to the back of the church. And they really treated him some type of way. Oh, wow, that looks faded. And so one Sunday, so he came for like 2 Sundays in a row. The third Sunday he came, they're still waiting on their new pastor to show up. And they're like, we don't know what's going on. Where's the new pastor? But get this man out of here. He's back. Sit him in the back of the church. They tapped him on the shoulder again because he dared sit up front. They moved him to the back of the church again. And so the deacon pops up and said, our new pastor has arrived. He's coming up. He's going to greet you all. So everybody's looking around for the new pastor. And guess who walked up to the front of the church? The homeless man was the new pastor. He said, I've been coming to this church for weeks. I wanted to see the type of flock I was getting ready to lead. I'm going to let y'all know right now there's going to be some changes. Everyone should be greeted the same when they walk in this church. You are no better than anyone else in here. And how dare you whisper and shun people? Like, it's a whole story. You can probably find it. I think that story went around on Facebook for a while. I think that's where I saw it. It was on Facebook. But he was the preacher, the homeless man. That shows God can use anyone, but you got to be willing and ready to be used. And I think a lot of people in them churches miss that opportunity to bless somebody because they're so stuck on, like you said, it's a fashion show. It's a fashion show. Who got the biggest and prettiest hat or stylish hat? Them outfits be off the chain. I'm like, y'all got the wrong thing. I think you should, instead of dressing up for church, I think you should come most humble. When you coming to try to outshine God's greatness, He's God. Come humble and ready to work and to serve. Y'all come to church every Sunday and tell each other the same stories. So you're going to keep preaching to saved people. So everybody in here saved. Y'all going to keep preaching to save people. Y'all going to go bring people in and tell them about how good God is and show them how you can bless them today. That's what I would be doing if it was my church. We've been collecting 10% of everybody's income every month. Let's bless somebody. Let's make somebody's life right now. We're going to pay your rent. We heard you was having a hard time. We're going to pay your rent today. You need help with that electric bill, sister so-and-so? We got you. Come on into the fold. Need groceries, that money should be buying gift cards to Walmart so people can buy clothes and things that they need for their household. When you pay their electric bill, you're just going to pay their electric bill and then what they supposed to do for food and everything else for the month? Or get back and forth to work. Like, I don't know. I'm just Tasha. But I feel like they can do better. But that's my story, being a pastor's daughter. That was my experience. It was an interesting one. And I just feel like going forward. Of course, I'm 45 years old, but I feel like going forward, churches can do a lot better. And I know there's some out there that are doing good work. They just need to be very careful about becoming cliquish and elitist. Just be very careful about doing that and shunning people. I don't believe setting down practice needs to be done away with. Churches are more about the accumulation of wealth for today's religious leaders. I agree. Because all of them, and I don't believe that's Christ-like. Christ was very humble. Smoke and mirrors, all smoke and mirrors. Yes, they are. They are. Because a lot of them, they have elaborate cars and houses and homes, and you literally preach the same sermons over and over and over again to the same people. What is the point in that? If you aren't changing lives, what is the point in that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Do better. Y'all should be leading the community with all that's going on. And then y'all sat up there, all them black church leaders sat up there with Trump. And that, oh, did you hear them talking about this man is not a racist? This is the most unracist man. All the pomp and posturing. I was just so disgusted. Like, at the very least, if y'all gonna have a conversation with him that's gonna help the black community, did it need to be televised? Because y'all didn't do nothing. I met with that man and it didn't do nothing. It didn't do nothing at all. But get your face seen on TV, your little 15 minutes of fame. And I'm sure the deaconess and the crowd, they just cheered you on the clap. Yes, Pastor. Yeah. Oh, it sickens me. I don't have a stomach for it. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying all churches are like that. Let me say that. And I'm not saying that my dad's church, they did absolutely no good in the neighborhood. I'm not saying that. I'm saying churches in general got to do better. They need to be leaders of this community, and their condemnation on people because of sin. If sin is your reason, then y'all need to shut the whole church down. Everybody needs to sit down then. I think it's just hypocritical. And definitely for children. I was a child. I was a 16-year-old child. And I felt like I was alone and without support. Honey, did you stay acted a plum fool? They acted a fool. They acted like they were unaware of the history of this country and the history of the man that they were talking about, Donald Trump. Like, y'all have no clue as the type of man he is and what was going on. I was so embarrassed. I wish, I'm using my phone right now because it's easier to do my makeup with the phone. If I had my laptop, I would pull up that footage and listen to, oh my God, I can't even remember that one preacher's name. I was just looking like him, like, you gotta be kidding. Like, what does his congregation say? Are they okay with this? Like, are they really okay with this? Because I would have some questions, honey. I would have some questions. We just talk about it. They had to have been ordered something because they were out the gate supporting him, like, meet with him. No, y'all should have went in there militant. That's what I would have wanted to see from the black male leaders of my community. I want y'all to go in there like men. Excuse my language, but not like some bitches, because that's what it looked like to me. Y'all supposed to go in there and hold that man accountable. We need it in writing. What do you plan to do for the black community? What is it that you think that you need to do for the black community so we can correct you or agree? I just feel like that it was a shit show. It was embarrassing. Y'all looked weak. Y'all look like y'all could easily be bought. After what our ancestors did, y'all rolled in like that. I was disappointed at the very least. Couldn't have been no husband of mine. Couldn't have been no husband of mine. It was shameful. Y'all thought my little 16-year-old pregnant belly was shameful? No, what y'all did, sat there and ate that man's shit, was shameful. Y'all shamed the black community. At least the drug dealers and dope boys had an excuse. Products of their environment. Y'all are taking advantage. Taking advantage. It mean nobody no good, so you ain't no better. You're no better than them. If sin is sin, God sees sin as sin. So y'all ain't no better. Was there? I would have loved to see that. I would have loved this. I think maybe I did. I think there was. I think I did see that. Good. Yeah, look him up. Yeah, I need that. Yeah. So if we come off this live, put it in the comments. Come back and put it in the comments for me. I think so too, Hippie. I think so too. I think they got something out of it. There had to be, because it was too many preachers there, and for y'all all to agree, suspect. I call suspect. For all y'all to just agree, what are y'all getting out of this? We are not a protected group in this country. No promise of but you see how quick they got the for Asians to be a protected group. You saw how quick that happened, but we can't get it done. We got evidence of police brutality in this country, a history of enslavement, and we can't get protected group status. Miss me. What did he promise y'all in that meeting? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. So if you want to know, but that's the reason. Well, me as a preacher's daughter, just do not subscribe to the religion or church atmosphere. And that's just the pregnancy story. That's not going into things that I came up under and seen in churches. And my dad pastored more than one church during my lifetime. So the things I saw in churches, and of course we visited other churches and frequented other churches, just the things I saw. I have a real reason to not trust religion or trust that environment, that particular environment, for my religious needs. Right. We got Juneteenth. We didn't need them to give us that. We already were doing it. I mean, the simple-mindedness of it all. It was like y'all took the wooden nickel. My mom said, don't take no wooden nickels when we leave for the day. Y'all took the wooden nickel. Y'all definitely took the wooden nickel. Because, man, y'all really took it. That was a wooden nickel. And y'all look foolish. Y'all thought y'all looked prestigious talking with the president. Y'all just look stupid and foolish. Because why didn't y'all have Obama in there with y'all? Because he knew y'all was a bunch of trash. Obama didn't even come to the meeting with y'all. He should have wanted to, as a black leader, should have wanted to. But no, he knew it was a mess. He knew it was a mess. Foolishness. But anyway, so tonight we're going to finish Dirty to the Grave. Not finish it, but we're going to do chapters 25 to 35. And after that, the next one we have will be the last one for that book, because the people that did the consent book, the book on consent and defining consent, asked me to review their book. And it's a very short book, but it's a very important book. So they asked me to review that book on my channel. So I do want to do that. And I would love for all of y'all to be there. I'm going to do it in one episode. So it won't be like repeated episodes like we're doing Dirty to the Grave, because it's a very short book. And we're really just defining consent for law. So more people will get prosecuted for sexual assault and sexual misconduct. So that'll be one episode. And I think she may come and speak with me on that. So the writer of the book. So stay tuned for that. And thank you all so much for being here tonight, listening to my story time, watching me do my little amateur makeup. Thank you so much. And so I will see you all next time. See you all tomorrow, tonight at midnight, for Dirty to the Grave, 25 to 35, those chapters. I might come back in the morning and do morning inspiration on Twitch and YouTube. So just check Instagram and see. And I'll always put a notice up for Instagram to let you know if I'm doing morning inspirations between 10 and 11. And I will see y'all later. Bye, y'all.
Black women are dope, man, and black women have so many strengths and talents, and it hurts us when we are trying to limit them in what they can and what they are able to do.
What you prefer, girl?